A beauty of a TvZ here, as we have got in the bottom right hand side of Nightshade the red Terran player TY taking on the blue Zerg. In the top left hand side, Scarlett, a TvZ best of 3 a series from the AlphaX into AlphaX tournament into the AlphaX Pro Circuit number 2. This is a tournament for, I believe it's a $1,000 prize pool. And this is from group stage 2, basically, so it's 8 players remaining. This is the second group stage. These players have already advanced through one group. I think I even casted a few of these games already from the first round of group stages. I would not be surprised because I get a lot of my replays from the AlphaX tournaments nowadays. And so, yeah, this should be a good one. Excited to see. Always, every time we see Scarlett and TY, it generally tends to lead to some fun games. It's a matchup which we've actually casted more than I would have expected to cast in the last few months or so, just because Scarlett and TY keep hitting each other in qualifiers and some of these online events, and they've both been pretty active in these online events as well, so kind of excited for that one. Of course, this is a YouTube exclusive. Well, kind of. It's one of those ones where I'm casting it for the intention of putting it on YouTube, but we're actually live on Twitch because I was very lazy today and I didn't do any of my casting that I was meant to do. So I was like, how can I make sure I do my casting? Let's go live on Twitch, then I'll have to cast. So this one is intended for YouTube, which means we are going to be focusing fully on the gameplay and everything, guys, but it also means that I take the quick little chance to say, please consider hitting the like button if you enjoy the video. It helps out massively. And of course, don't forget, if you don't already subscribe to the channel, to consider subscribing. We are past that 20,000 subscriber marker. Onwards and upwards. I don't really have a goal yet for the rest of the year. I'm trying to think what might be reasonable. I kind of want to say 30,000 subs by the end of the year, but I mean, we're already at, what, like 20.5k by the time this video goes up. Probably 21k unless it's slowed down a lot. So it's, no goal yet, but every sub helps, right? And onwards and upwards, let's keep growing the channel and putting out great StarCraft. As we get this up and running, and we do have our first game, obviously just opening very standard, giving me some time to sell out on that like button, as we have the Reaper coming across the map from TY. So Reaper Expand taking on a hatch gas and a spawning pool. No real surprises just yet, as Scarlett has not really got any information, not really expecting to. She sees the Reaper now, and that's basically all she needs to see. TY didn't really do anything until this Reaper comes across the map. Scarlett did scout in the direction of proxy racks. She sent one Overlord out to the right and then down. She sent the other Overlord out the front and then came back just to watch for SCVs moving in, so she was very aware of when this Reaper showed up and that there was no SCVs approaching or anything along those lines. So she was very aware that there was no proxy racks, or if there were, they were hidden away where she was not really expecting them at all. So she definitely did do some scouting, even though she didn't actually see anything. Important to make that distinction. Starport already building from TY in the main, but most importantly, this is all being done off one gas and hence a very fast third command center. So already building into a lot of economy that can get going here, a lot of eco. A lot, just a big setup to really get into that mid-game in a very strong eco position. You don't have to get in with a ton of Hellions and deal tons of damage or anything along those lines. And it's talking about Hellions, obviously, they will still come up. But you can get away with being a little bit more passive here. Now, this is a starport, so there will be something coming up. Looks likely to just be a Viking. The gas doesn't really allow for much else. It also means, though, this pack is going to be delayed, right? Oh, he's actually going to swap the starport onto the tech lab, so that's a little bit interesting. Starport goes onto the tech lab, 8 more lings in production, a few more queens as well. A couple of queens already just sat at the front, a couple of Hellions coming around, and the Banshee from TY will start. But it's a cloakless Banshee for the moment. This is what I was saying about the gas, right? It didn't really add up, but it will be cloak in the end. So Banshee into the cloak now. Okay, cool. So playing fairly safe. I mean, we actually see a lot of Cloak Banshee openers on this map. Just if you go 3cc initially, it is that bit greedier. We usually see a lot of just into Banshee and then 3cc styles. Obviously, that's why it looks a little bit weird on the gas timing, because one gas 3cc doesn't really sync up super well to go straight into Cloak Banshees. I mean, it works well enough, don't get me wrong, but it isn't like, you're not starting Banshees and the Cloak at the exact same time. So there will be a little bit of a grace period where this TY Banshee will get across the map and won't really dive in because it doesn't have Cloak. So then the Banshee's out for a little while where it's not useful. But the Banshee's also out nice and quickly, which means if there are Roaches coming, then TY's going to be fairly safe. He's going to be able to deal some damage to those guaranteed throughout the entire course of a Roach roll-in. Of course, we can see that that is not going to be the case. There's a Banelin nest on the way in the main base, accompanied by a fairly quick lair. And it looks as though Scarlett will be looking toward a at least a faster bailing speed here. She doesn't necessarily need to go into Aspire or anything. She could go into Aspire if she wanted to, but this is Nightshade, and we don't see a lot of Mutalisks play on this map, just for how good it is for the Terran player to pull back and deal with reinforcements, versus then how bad it is for the Zerg also trying to deal counterattack damage with run-bys, etc. It's very difficult to get run-by damage done as a Zerg player, and so you typically don't rely on a Ling Bane Muta style, which really relies on diving by, hitting bases, picking up kills, and stuff like that. So you actually often see a kind of a heavier Ling Bane style, and while that might seem weird because then I just said, oh, you don't really rely on run-bys as much on this map, you have enough Ling Bane to justify running by on a worse run-by map while also holding on at home, and also a map where the Terran so often goes 8 racks. It then means that 8 racks of Marines pushing across, you have the consistent unit production to really deal with that. As Scarlett here, going straight to her Evolution Chambers, and she's actually going to start at 1-1 about the same time as the Terran, just because of the Cloak Banshee setup. Really means that the Terran player doesn't have those engineering bays super duper quickly. 5 drones going down to the Banshees, they're going to slide away. Bit of a shame to have a Lair up, but no Overseer in position just yet. I'm just looking for the other one, it's over here, but unable to get here, and this means that these Banshees are still out dealing damage. 9 workers killed as the first Banshee goes down. That's some good opening harassment from TY to get it started in this game number 1. 1-1 upgrade starting from TY on the natural expansion, just going to be seeing the 3rd CC. Coming down at the front, a few SCVs. We're about to get started, and Mule's dropping in. We do have the Hellions out to the right side already picking up a Zergling kill, and now the rest of these Hellions coming through. Going to get a couple of creep tumors already and continue through to get rid of a good amount of the creep spread on this right side. There's a lot of creep on this right side, and actually Scarlett will be able to continue to creep up this top avenue. At the moment, just taking this 4th base over on the left, and this is where the creep will be most important then for the near future. But it is nice to have this creep up because this is obviously the replacement 4th base. If you lose out on the left-hand side, you move up to the top side instead, and that's going to be your, your fallback mechanism. So if you already have creep there, it makes holding that position way, way, way easier. The Scarlett in the end does go Spire, so it's a pretty late Spire as well, considering how fast her Lair and her bailing speed was. This is really a Spire which comes up way later than what you'd usually expect given the circumstances, and I'm not really sure I like it. As TY adds on the 3 extra racks to go to 8 racks, Scarlett is essentially investing into a Spire at the worst possible time. She's banking money when TY is like, oh, let's build more racks. Oh, I've got 1-1 and my combat shield's finishing. Let's push onto the map and see what's going on. Let's go have a see what we can do here as this army of TY coming out over to the far left-hand side. A few of these creep teamers going to get picked up. So they are going to go down. And that's just going to be seeing this tank sieged up from TY at the front. And just going to be able to blow up a few of these creep teamers as another scan comes down. And a couple of Banes are going to be setting to roll forward here. Tanks are going to continue to siege up. We're just going to see the rest of these Banes coming through. A lot of these Banelings continue to come into play at the moment as we do have the tanks continue to fire very nicely, very well so far. Dealing a good bunch of damage across the board. And just going to be seeing Scarlett. Didn't really take the fight she wanted to or needed to there. Look at the resources lost. It's already devastating for how little TY has lost. Splitting away from these Banelings now as well. And these tanks have just been massacring. 16 kills, 14 kills, 15 kills. First push of the game is just going to get it done for TY. Apparently, mega efficiency. Really kept all of his units alive throughout. Got a few drone kills here and there. And this first push was just too much for Scarlett to deal with. And again, it came at the wrong time. Scarlett was banking money from Mutalisks. She still has 600 gas she hasn't spent. And all of that combined with a really good opening of TY, right? It just isn't going to be enough for Scarlett. As you see, TY is just going to keep on dealing with wave of Ling Bane after wave of Ling Bane coming through. TY is going to take first map of this best of 3. And we'll go up 1-0 in the series. Moving into Eternal Empire for our second map in the bottom left-hand side, we start with the Red Terran. This is TY. Up against the Blue Zerg in the top right-hand side from Brave Star Gaming. Give it up if you're cheering on Scarlett. A game 2 of this best of 3, and a first game which didn't really go Scarlett's way. Definitely fell behind early, and that first push of TY was just devastating to the point of not even really giving Scarlett much of a chance to get back into it, not really giving her much of a chance to survive or anything along those lines. This is a really early drone scout. She's looking for any proxies that are out the front. I guess she's going to pull back with this drone and use that same drone to expand with, but that's just how serious Scarlett is about not dying to proxies here. She really seems to believe that TY is going to crack out a couple of proxied barracks or so. But in the end, obviously, TY is being pretty normal. Back at home, barracks is starting to build. These couple of drones from Scarlett already on the way in. There's that hatchery from Scarlett on the natural expansion, and just going to be seeing the gas, the spawning pool, all of that going to get ready to go here. So hatch, gas, and pool will all set up. Scan all of that ready to rumble as we see the racks from TY going to be finishing very shortly. The Overlord of Scarlett continuing down to the bottom left-hand side. I'm just going to be seeing the Overlord flying through as well. Reaper is going to rally back into the main. The Overlord coming across over to the left-hand side. Just getting set up as the CC gets built. And of course, Eternal Empire, the map where you shouldn't really expect TY just to push across the map and be able to win with that first push. Even if you get a bit of early damage done on Eternal Empire, it's meant to be the map the Zerg can then still hold on to. It's a bit longer to push across, it's longer to rally across. It's absolutely a map where we are expecting Mutalisks more so than the last map. So definitely a bit of, definitely some possibility there. As we see the Zerglin speed from Scarlett already starting in the main base, getting that up and going. A couple of queens on the way out, going to be done soon. A couple extra drones on the way. We will have the factory about halfway done from TY. In the main base as well. Reaper coming through, going to get a few shots off on a couple of Zerglings already. Dealing just a little bit of damage here as the Lings going to take a pretty good beating. Queen pops out, deals some damage to the Reaper. Again, the factory is going to be done from TY in a moment as the reactor drops onto the barracks. And the command center number 3, once again, TY just going to go one gas opener. Scarlett does manage to sneak the third base down without the Reaper being able to block or slow it down or anything along those lines. And also, worth noting, right, that TY doesn't try to, hatchery block that third base or anything like that. He's quite happy just for Scarlett to take that, especially because he's going 3cc. He, A, doesn't want to invest the minerals in an engineering bay or a bunker that would try and slow this base down. He's just going super eco mode, right? Like, to be able to keep his build on point and on track. This build, it's because you go like super eco, it's really important that you hit all of your timings properly. And the investment of even just the SCV sticking around across the map for so much longer, that can have an effect as well. And of course, if you force Scarlett to stay on 2 bases, do you really want that when you're playing, fast 3cc yourself? Well, not really. So all of TY's moves seem to make a good amount of sense here in the early stages. There's a tech lab going to finish up on the barracks. Starport's going to jump onto this position and get the cloak or so started as this command center will finish on up. It looks as though indeed we will just have the Banshees once again. So TY, a similar opening. Just saying, okay, well, if I set up into my, Banshees, I can get my cloak up. A, it keeps me safe once again. B, it puts me in a good position for the mid game. He just obviously seems to like this setup against Scarlett, who... Okay, don't get me wrong, I think Scarlett's been very good lately, and I think she's had a lot of results, but TY has been obviously fantastic, and I really think TY goes into this series probably feeling pretty confident, right? And I think one of the big things you can always do when you feel confident against a Zerg is to just say, oh, you know what? I'm actually just going to go and play Banshees every game, and that basically forces you to play regular. Now, this Overlord was sat here, so it does get in for the scout, as it will actually get chased away. No way, it survives. Oh my goodness, one hit from death. Well, it got in for the scout, and that's why TY decides to change away from the Cloak Banshee opener, goes for the Liberator instead. It's a little bit cheaper and perhaps likely to get some damage done because the spores initially aren't going to be in anti-Liberator positions. The queens may not be in the sort of positions they want to be in. It's just a good way, right? And it's, way less of an investment. It's just one Liberator now compared to Cloak, and probably 2 Banshees if you're going to invest into Cloak, right? So a good way to get some harassment down. A little bit cheaper, makes the rest of the build then a little bit faster. And especially for it just being seen so early, right? Scarlett already morphing in an Overseer, so a lot of the damage the Banshees, though, a lot of the indirect damage the Banshees want to do, forcing Overseers, etc., that's still going to be done anyway, so you've already gained that benefit without actually being able to go straight into it. This Liberator up the right side is going to come around the back of the natural. We'll get sieged up in a moment. A couple of Zerglings Already being dropped, being nest Spire on the way in, and this is really nice. This Liberator gets 4 drones already, and Scarlett lets her Queen wander into the mineral line. He'll get a 5th drone as well, and now TY will unsiege and relocate. And of course, there's so much lost mining time during all of this as well. Scarlett only just getting back to mining there, and TY looks like he's just going to bring that Liberator home, get it healed up, get it repaired, and get it back onto the map. Get it harassing again. Scarlett's approached this game into that Spire, but you can actually see TY. Look at the difference in the upgrades this game. So, Scarlett playing fairly similar to last game. She did go upgrades before the Spire last time, so they sped up for her. But because TY doesn't commit as heavily into Banshees, he actually just goes for that one lib. His own upgrades are a bit faster, so the difference in upgrades is monumental from last game to this game. Not only did TY find a way to start his sooner, Scarlett also started hers later in preference for the Mutalisks this time, which I don't mind on a map like Eternal Empire, but it is something to keep in mind, and this is very interesting. The Baneling speed now starting, it feels like that's fairly late considering we've had an entire Spire built in this time. These Banes should have Bane speed right now, and that's meant to make up for being... I know there's no upgrade advantage yet, but the Banes having Bane speed is meant to make up for a lot of the upgrade disadvantage you will be at in this game. They're meant to be the way you hold on here initially, and it's just not ready. And that's nothing but a mistake from Scarlett, or if it's not a mistake, then it's a mega greed. That's now cost her the cancelling of her 4th base, which means she's already behind on that 4th base time, which is obviously not really where she wants to be at. Now, of course, you can see TY's setup is going to be a couple of tanks, and they are going to move out onto the map with the rest of TY's forces. The Liberator back repaired and onto the map once again, so it's going to make its own way around and across. And just look at how late these upgrades are for Scarlett. 1-1 barely started. The armory late from TUI, so 2-2 won't be kind of flush with the end of 1-1, but he's still going to hold an upgrade advantage if he does start those 2-2 upgrades now when the armory ends. A little counter-attack with the Mutalisk flies in for 2 SUVs from the edges, but that's all you're really going to find is TY gets straight in on top of this 4th base again. This time the Banelings at least do have speed, but now they're fighting with that upgrade disadvantage. With the siege tanks to support, that will be a cancel. And there's a base on the top side from Scarlett, so she will take that high ground position. And high ground is arguably a tricky-ish one to take, as we see Midas coming back in. The high ground's harder to hold on to because it's harder to get a good flank onto the high ground position versus the flank here. You can very easily run up here and get a good flank in a more open area. And if there's Terrans fighting around this choke point and this choke point. So you generally would prefer to keep the low ground base up. I mean, TY probably doesn't know about the topside base, isn't expecting Scarlett to double expand that quickly, as she will counterattack though, and it's a lot of Lings that are just going to run straight up here and split between the natural and the 3rd base, so if there's ever a time for Scarlett to get back into this, it would be with an attack like this one. She's only going to get 4 kills, but look at what she's made the army do. Entire army turned back around, and the army turning around for a long time, enforcing this much lost mining time. Okay, it's only 8 SCVs, but the time that she was able to buy for herself is so valuable because now her next fight is going to be with 1-1 upgrades, or it should have been. She's going to go in a bit early for +1 melee. I don't like the lack of Zerglings here is the one thing I'm going to say, especially this being off creep, and it feels like these Banes all just rolled in from one direction. Ugh. This felt as though it was meant to be so much better for Scarlett after buying herself some time, forcing some of the army home. Reinforcements hadn't come across the map for a while. And then she, I don't know if it was, maybe it was, I mean, obviously it's always nice to come in from a flank. I feel like if she just has more Zerglings there, she's actually able to just straight up fight this anyway, even if she does just come from one direction. In the end, she'll start to push this back thanks to the Mutalisk count, but that's really it. But obviously with the extra Marines showing up, now these Mutalisks are going to have less they can do. And of course, TUI not just getting extra Marines across here, but he's about 30 seconds away from a 2-2 set of upgrades. That's going to be really frustrating for Scarlett to fight against, because every single one of her fights now is going to start looking inefficient. It's going to start looking a little bit rough. It's going to be absolutely brutal as these Banelings, they only find split Marines. TUI's control so far very good, and I mean, it just feels like he has an eternity to set up those splits because he's fighting mostly off the creep spread. Scarlett's Baneling count isn't that scary to begin with, so it just feels as though Scarlett's not making any progress at all just yet. Move these Marines and Medvacs away to the left-hand side as the Banes of Scarlett in the upper right. It's going to be seen Thor on the way out from TY as well. So bringing this into play, Marauder, a couple more Widow Mines getting going, 10 more Lings on the way out. We're just going to be seeing Ling Bane, Mutalisk all the way out to the far left-hand side here, maybe wanting to go in and jump on this army. Gonna see a lot of these lings taking a lot of damage right away. It's gonna be seen our Mutalisks continue to fly into this as well. Wooden Mines are burrowing up. Not gonna do too much at all. Let's get these units coming in. The Mutalisks getting turned around. I'm just gonna be seeing our Banelings from Scarlett backing away, back up the left-hand side. Planetary Fortress of TY is going to be setting up on the lower 6 o'clock position. Well, TY gets an army out over to the watchtower. Just going to see a few more Marines pulling back down to the south side as well. +3 attack already on the way on the engineering bay, and just going to be seeing Mutalisks of Scarlett down the right side of the map, and maybe thinking of flying into that planetary fortress here already. I mean, she needs something, right? She's actually going to bring the Mutas across the left-hand side where there's a wooden mine she can clean up. She needs some time. She needs something to keep TY away, and her creep spread is going to do a very good job of keeping TY back. What's a bit awkward is that she's going to simultaneously have to defend this right side base and this 12 o'clock base, and they are just so far apart from each other. The moment TY starts going in two directions, even if it's just like a drop over here, it's going to become a real challenge for Scarlett, who once again is going to end up... It looks like she's going to end up fighting in this position on no creep. At this point, she may as well let the Terran army get up to this high ground. There's not actually that much splash damage in this army, especially this portion up here. Counterattack comes in. Lings and Banes crash through for the planetary fortress. Will get the kill. So that's what you're looking for. And TY not paying attention will allow Scarlett to come through with the Banelings, and they do a good job as well. 10 SCVs do find themselves going down. Okay, well, 10 SCVs down, and now we're going to be seeing maybe a bit of momentum for Scarlett. Not only did she clean up this attack, but she also did good damage across the map. Can't get through here initially. Oh, did she really lose so many of her Mutalisks? She did. I didn't realize that attack was so expensive in the Mutalisk count. Obviously, the Mutalisks are one of the units which, after a fight like that, usually come across the map. They apply a lot of pressure. They start to attack, and they keep on attacking. And in this case, they just didn't get a chance to because they were wiped out. That's brutal. Well, TY is not really punished too hard for the last fight and the loss of economy. Of course, he's been kind of leading this game for a long time in big ways. I think Scarlett might still be able to push this back again, and she might be able to keep these fights going. Her Mutalisk count a bit higher again now. Banes crash in for a few of these Marines. She's getting rid of most of the medevacts, but again, there's actually a Thor of TY just sat here dealing so much damage. Finally, she cleans out, but now there's Marines and Marauders just straight up stimming into this right side base. And Scarlett, previously she had Lings and Banes here. Now she brought all of those units to the top side to help out, so now she has nothing. She's just going to run some Lings in and kind of hope they get a good start for the cleanup. Hope they can start to overwhelm, because they absolutely need to. She will keep the base alive, which is of course important. She finds a couple of SCVs that were accidentally rallied into this as well, so making up for some of the drone damage she took. I mean, if you look at the supplies alone, you're kind of like, well, yeah, Scarlett's a bit behind, but she's got to get a bit of gas to spend. If she can find a way to spend that, then okay. But then also she's on 70 drones. It's not quite the 80 to 85 worker count you want to really be on 5 bases and trading out with Lingbane Muta. She's also behind 2-2 upgrades against 3-3 and will be for a long time. Her Hive isn't even finished yet. And that also means that Hive Tech is going to be not here for a while, so she's still got 2 to 3 minutes at least of just being battered by Terran bio forces. I'm a little bit afraid that the damage she takes in that time is then going to lead to her trying to build Ultras or so to help her transition into late game. And the Ultra switch is going to kill her, because I don't think she can realistically afford it, while also not just dying while those Ultras build. But then if she doesn't build Ultras, I don't see this game going well for her in the longer term, because she can't keep up on pure Lingbane Muta for too much longer. She also needs to invest into upgrades as well if she wants to be on 3-3. I mean, that's also expensive. Look at the gas count that she has. She has 1,800 gas on the bank. She just does not have the mineral income to really match that. She needs to pull out of some of these gases. Probably doesn't... Well, she probably does realize it, but it's a weird thing, because usually you want your gas, rebuild those mutas, right, tech up, but in this case, she actually just needs, because she doesn't have the extra 10 workers or so she might usually have, she actually really needs those to keep the mineral count balanced, so she can actually make use of the income that she's getting on that gas. I mean, right now she has, what, like 8 extractors of drones, all mining, that are just mining gas that just isn't really all needed. So it's a huge amount of drones that are just wasted there. As TY comes to the left-hand side instead now. We do also have a bit of an army to the right. A few Marines stem through. A couple of creep tumors already going down. A lot of Lings going to go running forward, and they're going to find themselves... Oh my goodness, a huge connection from the Widow Mine. It's a massive, massive start as 8 SCVs go down the bottom side. Banes come crashing in. 14 workers go down. Lings, Mutas, and Banes are going to continue to fly forward here. And these Banes are going to run up the ramp. And they're going to start crashing through to do even further damage. They're going to get through for loads of damage. Well, the 14 SCVs, again, the question is, can Scarlett make this work from here? Sadly, again, I think the answer is probably no. There's just too many Marines, and now the Mutalists are going down again. Oh, every time it feels like Scarlett gets some worker damage done, starts to clean up an army, she then, moments later, finds herself cleaned up, finds herself being pushed away, and finds herself in almost a worse position than she started in somehow. Maybe just continues to go too far across the map. Maybe she feels she needs to win right here and now, which I don't blame her for feeling, but then you look at this and it's like, well, there's just way too many units from TY, obviously, and at this point we might very well be seeing the end of Scarlett because she's done a great job hanging on until now in a game which she's definitely been trailing in for pretty much the entirety of it. But now she just doesn't have the Banelings left over. She doesn't have the new Banelings on the way to deal with what's already Bio, pushing up her ramp into the next phase. Ling's going to run through, and they're going to actually clean up the Marauders, perhaps. The Banes go off on a Marauder. That will do it. That will be GG, and TY is going to take a 2-0 win. A couple games which were just very well played. Loved the switch away from Cloak Banshees after the Scout earlier in this one. Just love that TY just obviously looked good confidently, just looked good in engagement. Just a little bit of a shame for Scarlett, I would say, again, just because she was definitely in a position where it kind of felt like in the second game she hadn't got a bit too behind early, and even then she looked like she was almost coming back at points, but then every time it just went so wrong for her in one way she couldn't have allowed it to. And that really sucks. Of course, guys, if you're watching this out on the YouTube, do not forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well, and help us out. If you're looking to go one step further, there are YouTube memberships available. Get yourself the replay packs, etc. You just click the join button below the video. It's $5 a month. Or if you have YouTube Premium, it might even still be free. I'm not sure if that deal is still active, but maybe worth checking out. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching this one, and we'll see you next time here on the channel, of course, and you upload every day. GG's TY 2-0 over Scarlett.